if a rebrand is that successful, it should be memorable. But it's only the bad ones, like Jaguar. They just added more fluffy words that mean nothing.
Kangaroos, baseball bats, badasses, and Bugs Bunny. What do all these things have in common? Beatrice Gutknecht. She is the guest on today's episode, and she is a branding specialist. Her company, Badassery by B, which is like the best name ever, has helped dozens of companies build out their brand strategies and have fun doing it. In this episode, we are going to cover why every single rebrand ever is always a flop, including some of the most notable ones. And we're also going to talk about how to use nostalgia and pop culture references in your branding and marketing to build trust and connect with your audience. And we talk about how to inject your personality into your business and do it in a way that feels natural and doesn't lose credibility, but actually gains it. So if you want to build a brand that people are actually going to remember and connect with, this is an episode that you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. You were talking about this the other day, but like the baseball bat and the roo, how did it all come about? How did the idea come about?
That started off with, you know how on LinkedIn there used to be these little like well, there still are the emojis next to the names, right? Which is
Yes,
technically like not
I got one
LinkedIn
on
legal.
mine. I have like one of these.
Exactly. Technically not LinkedIn legal. But at that time, this was like when I was first getting started, like, getting a feel of like LinkedIn and the vibe. And I was like, okay, you know what? I wanna get a like little emoji. And so I did a poll. The kangaroo was one of them, and there was like a few other like things. I was like, okay, let's see. By far, the most was the kangaroo. And I was like, okay, you know what? Since I'm Australian and since kangaroos are already badass enough as it is, with their kick force, let's do that. Well, red kangaroos. And give it that extra little je ne sais quoi to make it badassery by B. Give it the baseball bat, shades, and then it becomes that icon, not another one of the thousand freaking kangaroo logos that you see about.
That's amazing. Did you give her the baseball bat and the sunglasses first?
Yeah,
Or,
she had
yeah,
them first. I'm like, I don't play baseball. I mean, now that I have one, it's great for in case. But yeah,
in case someone
she
breaks in your
had.
house?
I'm like, just in case to just walk around the road and everyone be like, what the I know that badassery, if you like general thought is like it links to badass and like, mobster, that kind of vibe. But like if you look it up on Google, you check the dictionary and it just means doing something exceptionally well. So I thought to just play into both perceptions. It's like, hey, well, this is the dictionary and this is what I want to conduct myself as a business and how I want to help clients. The badassery is in like, hey, let's we're gonna be tough, and we're gonna take a bat to anyone's knees that wants to come against you as a brand.
I love it. You're getting into this this badass thing right now. So like you literally looked up the definition. You had badass before Rue or no?
That was before Rue. Yeah, badassery was there to from the get-go. When I first started, I was thinking a lot of different things, like, in the mythology, like, I just wanted something that really resonates with me. It's really pushing back against social norms. That's the reason why it's badassery, because there's so many norms out there. Like, hey, follow what everyone else in the industry is doing because that's the right thing, or go and get married, have 2.5 kids, get like a house and a white picket fence, or there's so many social norms that's just what I want to push back against. So it's all comes together with that.
Cool. But like you sort of like it goes with your vibe too.
Just slightly edgy. Like I just added the whole fuck rebrands as well. I don't know if we're allowed to swear in here.
Yes, you can. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Fuck yeah. So I recently, because I started this whole looking for, talking on podcasts, having more communications, etc. From that, I understood that, hey, you know what? Like the thing that I very much believe is fuck rebrands. Yeah, I know, right? You're like, oh.
I love it. I love it.
Every rebrand that I see, it has flopped big time. And I mean like rebrand in the sense that like the Twitter to X, the Jaguar, like there's so many brands that like that, like they made it visual first and did none of the work behind the scenes. Like you work with them and it's still the exact same experience. You know, even for Twitter or X, did they replace the word tweeting? No, they didn't.
No, there's nothing different other than the
It's not
logo.
different. Exactly. So what is the point? Rebrands don't work. It's the repositioning, the refreshing, doing those like little shifts that actually get recalled. Because the moment you rebrand, you lose your brand value, whatever you've built, you lose the trust. So, however long you've been building, the longer that you've been building, whether you like it or not, you've built up a certain amount of trust. You've built up a certain amount of association to your brand. So, same thing as what you were saying to me just before is like, hey, look, the badassery kind of just fits with your vibe, with you. And that is just from what, 2.5 years of doing badassery, right? So imagine you're in business for 10 years and you're like, hey, pretty shiny object. There's a rebrand. Let's do that. All of your audience or a big chunk of your audience is going to be either they're going to be confused, they're going to lose sight of what you truly represent.
Maybe you can explain this one to me because this is like, I don't get it.
Okay.
HBO, like when I was a kid, like, HBO was the fucking like, it was the channel. It was the channel that revolutionized TV. It had Oz, it had The Sopranos, it had Entourage. Like, there was nothing better than HBO. And they even had that thing, like, commercials was like, "It's not TV, it's HBO," right? Which is a fucking amazing, like, one-liner or whatever you wanna call it. All of a sudden, now, like, they dumped HBO and just went all in on Max? Where was the thinking behind that? I don't get it. Like, do you have any insight that I'm missing or no? Or are they just stupid?
They might very well be. Like, there's things like HBO, Cartoon Network, etc. It's the moment you change that name, you've lost all of the association. So say, for example, what we built up, growing up with that specific channel, HBO, that's what you're gonna be Googling automatically. You're not gonna think about it. You're like, "Oh, I remember that show. It was on HBO." And you're like, you don't remember the name of the show, but you'll Google HBO. But then now that they've changed it, it's like, "Oh, wait, it's not there anymore." To be honest, I have no idea what they were thinking to go from HBO to Max. There's no reason. They could have done, like, mini changes. Maybe there was, like, an issue with viewership. Maybe they were like, "Okay, we kinda wanna attract more of Gen Z." It could be that. In which case, alright, let's think about what are the things that HBO stands for? What does it represent to us, right? What made it iconic to us? And pull on that specific concept and see, okay, what does that look like for Gen Z? And then using that in like their content, in their shows, etc., rather than changing a name.
Have you seen a successful one? Like a
Rebrand?
successful rebrand or no?
I mean,
Never.
there probably are.
But you can't even think of an example. That's how fucking hard it
Exactly.
is.
This is the problem, right? Like, if a rebrand is that successful, it should be memorable, but it's only the bad ones, like Jaguar. There was another one that I was sent recently, and it was like a fashion brand, and they completely changed up all the wording to make them seem like all upper class, echelon, that sort of thing. But they just added more fluffy words that mean nothing. The point is there should be no subjective wording in there. Wording that you're like, what does that even mean?" Like impact, results, authenticity. They could mean anything to anyone,
Right.
right?
So one of the things that I love about you and your content or whatever is the nostalgia and the pop culture references and whatnot. So, like, how did you get into that? And how did you decide, like, this is an important part of like my brand and my content?
Nostalgia has been coming up a lot in the last few years, and it's only just building up. Nostalgia using pop culture, and it will only continue to grow. Because now if we have a look at how Gen Z are acting, or like probably Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, etc., they're like trying to bring back things that, we find cringe. It's like, why would you bring those awful pants back? Why would you do this? But okay, have at it.
Yeah, we
Right?
had Jenko jeans when I was a kid, and like I'm like, these are the worst looking things ever, and now they're back, like,
You're
or the
just like,
style of them, but
guys, stop it. Like, stop it. And see, that's the thing. Like, it's just gonna keep on cycling through. So be it nostalgia, be it pop culture, those are the things that are going to elicit emotions. And that is the thing that, like, gets the connections. I noticed it as soon as I started pulling up things like Cartoon Network, Bugs Bunny, Matrix, all the various things that I brought up over these last few years. It's like that's what starts conversations. People just want to be able to connect, have a conversation. And from that, yeah, then they'll like consume more of your content and be like relate. You're building that trust, you're building that authenticity. Because for me, building badassery by B, it was always going to be like, hey, I want to show how good brand strategy can be done first, like with my own brand.
ultimately the idea is to just form a connection.
Connection and emotion, because there's always going to be an emotion, be it like frustration, like what we were just thinking about, like these kids wearing jeans that are coming down to their below. Anyway, sorry. I saw it on the trip, like when I was in Prague, and this kid had his pants, and there was a belt. He was wearing a belt, and I was like, the belt is not supposed to go that far down on it. It draws that emotion, like a laugh. I feel like it has better connections. A lot of the time when people reach out and connect to me, and I'm like, "Hey, what inspired you?" Because, like, I wanna always double down on what works, obviously. I know there's a lot of people on LinkedIn being like, "Don't ask, what made you connect." Why would you not do that?
Oh, totally.
Understand what works, and then you can do more of it, or you can adjust that a little bit. Because of that, I understood that those pop culture references, the, tongue in cheek, the kind of pushing back, edutainment, the kangaroo, that has come up so frequently, and like, "Hey, I connected with you because I saw XYZ in the content. I saw you talk about Cinderella."
It's amazing, and those people will come back and reference those months and, like, later and stuff. Because I mean, I still remember your Cinderella video. It's so rare that you remember, like, with all the content that you consume, I can post the same video, like, 3 months later, 6 months later, and people will never remember it, but, like, that, they'll remember. Like, I remember your Cinderella video specifically.
That is what I doubled down on it, like pop culture, nostalgia,
How
just
do you do
kinda
it for
pushing back.
clients? Like, how do you bring it in how do you bring that in for clients?
It depends on their brand. Not everybody is going to be about pushing back and, like, throwing around a baseball bat, right? It depends on where they're at and who their target audience is. Like, it might be, elegant and refined, but it's like, "Hey, let's see what everybody else is doing in your industry, and find something that you're doing differently to them, but it's also known." Maybe it's like leaning into a different industry, putting 2 totally different things together, like Halo Top did for ice cream and being a gym supplement, right? Like, bring 2 known things together And then that's what makes it memorable. Like, lean into that one thing. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to go for incredibly high end or you're trying to go for, like, liquid death, that's what works.
Can I like put you on the spot and like try to figure out how to like and like let's pick like a really like tough niche industry and have you come up with an idea to try to like bring in pop culture into it or not?
Bring pop culture. Okay, let's see. Let's try this.
Okay. If you had to design some piece of content for a virtual assistant and bring in some sort of pop culture or nostalgia reference on the spot, what would you come up with?
Bugs Bunny and a virtual assistant. So, I can just imagine maybe she has Bugs Bunny is, like, the female Bugs Bunny? What's
Yeah, yeah. When he does it all the time. Bugs
right, with
Bunny
the
likes to dress
thing?
up as a female bunny, right?
Exactly. So, leaning into that and using "What's up, doc?" as, like, just constantly, because that becomes a memorable bit, like, a memorable little twang. So, be it in the comments, be it in her posts, be it in the DMs. The first thing is like, "What's up, doc?" Or, like, even in conversations when she's, like say, for example, she has a podcast, she starts it off with, like, "Hey, what's up, doc?" And then they can talk about the problems that they're facing in the business, and she'd be like, "Okay, so this is how we can simplify that for an easy process."
I like it. I like it. You took it further than I was even thinking. Like I'm just like,
Ah!
how do I come up with one piece of content? And you're like, no, no, no. Let's make it part of her entire
It's
brand.
gonna be a whole
Uh,
strategy.
that's all right. See, you have like a wider thought like me. It's just video, 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 video. No, you have like an overall strategy.
This is a perfect dynamic, like, I'll be like, "Here's the strategy. Can you help me with, like, a post? 'Cause,
Yeah, yeah. No, for me, it's like, oh yeah, I'll come up with a post about a virtual assistant and pop culture. So like, I'm thinking about who's a really good assistant in like a movie or something like that. Like, what's the movie with Anne Hathaway where they brought her in to be the assistant?
The Devil Wears Prada?
That's the movie, right? I would do something like that. That's what I'm gonna play with. Like, the best assistant ever is Anne Hathaway in that. Now that's what you are as the virtual assistant. Tough though, because
It
it's
is, it
Meryl
is.
Streep is like an asshole in it.
And you wanna have, like, memorable little, like, things that come together. If you're picking a certain character, right, it's like pulling certain memorable bits from that character that you enjoy it. Like, what about Anne Hathaway in that character made you choose her?
I guess I just remember like that first scene where like she kind of screws up getting the coffee or whatever it is. It's like she's all excited. She got this job. She's working for this big, very important, like famous person, and like it's like a dream job, and she screws up like right at the beginning. Like that's the part that hit.
So you mean, like, to bring that human element of it, like, "Hey, I'm a virtual assistant, but, like, hey, I'm not gonna like, we're not perfect as well." Every
Yeah,
other
or
virtual
just
assistant out there is like, "Oh, I'm perfect. We're gonna fix all of your problems. Don't worry."
she was more than just an assistant. Like she brought a lot more to the table than just being a virtual assistant, right? Now we can play on that.
In terms of putting a character or like associating your brand to something, the most important or the most effective parts are using the things that trigger a certain memory or trigger a certain feeling, right? Otherwise, it's like simply saying a statement, right? They also need to go down that journey. So it needs to be like an obvious connection, like, hey, like same as like, what's up, doc? How many things are you gonna think of just without any context? Me saying that. Obviously, if you didn't grow up with Cartoon Network or Bugs Bunny, it's a different story. But then it's like
Well, yeah,
understanding your
your audience
audience.
better have grown up with Cartoon Network and Bugs Bunny because if that's who you're going after,
Exactly. Exactly. So that's the key, right? But like before you even go into it, it's like, who's my audience? And same thing, looping back to when we were talking about the kangaroo and root. I understood very well that it is a clear symbol of Australia, and I wanted to be linked to Australia. And I know Australia is quite upheld in the US, in Canada, North America, etc. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lean into that element because I'm not living there, right? So I want to make it very clear on that side.
I always like hanging out with you. We should do this again.
We could like banter out some really good ideas. Just like, hey, so this is like an overall strategy. How do we do like this content or even a live shit? Talking about like, how about this strategy? And then you're like, okay, so in terms of video, how can we make this like
Oh,
into video
totally.
clips kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, we could do I would be fun. Like having people give us like totally random stuff and be like, give us a pop culture or nostalgia reference and
Yep.
a job. How do we mash them two together? You do it from a overall branding strategy. And I'm like, all right, here's how we make it into one video.
Exactly. Yeah. Like pick an industry. That's the thing. Like a lot of the industries, like especially if it's a dry industry, like banking
Yeah.
or finance or bookkeeping. Holy shit. There's a lot where we can just be like, okay, so imagine if there's like a bookkeeper and we got
Who's the character that loves books? Who's like a big like book nerd character?
book nerd. Oh,
What about Matilda? Matilda as a bookkeeper. That's a good one.
oh,
That's all she did was
right.
read books. She was like 4 years old and was like reading the adult books and stuff.
There's a lot, like, her singing in class, just, like, there's a lot of little lines that could be, like, pulled and associated to, like, the content, and then you just need to be like, "Hey,
We'll work on this.
what are the lines?" But, no, I
We'll work
mean,
on this is a future project we'll have to work on.
dude, right? This is fun. Thank you so much for
If
this,
you're a
and
bookkeeper and you're watching this right now, hit us up. We're
ex
gonna build you we're gonna build you a sick
exactly.
brand strategy and some dope videos. Tell everybody where to find you.
So, there's 3 places. 1, LinkedIn, Beatrice Gutknecht. 2, the Badass Mom newsletter, which expands on all of these ideas and behind the scenes for brand strategy. And 3, the Art of Branding podcast.
Beautiful. We'll put all the links in the YouTube description here. Again, we're gonna get back here and we're gonna develop our Matilda bookkeeper idea. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this episode with Beatrice. She is one of the most fun people that I have met on LinkedIn, and I love hanging out with her. And hopefully, I'll get her to come back here one day. But in the meantime, if you would like to create video content for your business, similar to what I did in this episode with Beatrice, we were able to turn this 20-minute conversation into 8 killer clips for her social media and LinkedIn. This is what we do for our clients at Video on Easy Mode. We do the research, we come prepared, we talk about topics that are relevant to your audience, and you just show up, showcase your expertise, you get a month's worth of content in under an hour. Send me a message on LinkedIn or head on down to the description, find the link to book a call, and we will put your video on easy mode. See ya.